talked about it, a bit of a double whammy, right, for Catalonia. There was that autonomy deal that was struck down by the courts, and there was, of course, the financial crisis, and having to go cap in hand to Madrid for a bailout. Madrid hasn't helped the cause of their cause by bringing in the criticism that's been made of Mariano Rajoy not being inclusive enough with the Catalans in terms of addressing some of that hurt pride.
Well, why should they? They did it already. I mean, as your correspondent clearly said before, Catalonia has the widest autonomy status, not only in Spain, but in Europe. There is
not as wide as the Basques.
Well, there is only one point. This is a tax issue. And this was the original major problem of Catalonia. But from a tax and financial problem, it has moved to a cultural and political problem. It's becoming totally unrealistic and conscient in the state of mind of most Catalans. They don't want to stay, they don't even know why, but they want to stay in Spain, since they've been together with during 600 years. There's something interesting, and you mentioned that before.
And why is that? Why is that? Why did this rift grow? It's not just about money, is it?
Yeah, as you mentioned before, François, it's only a matter of pride, but it's something that goes beyond that. I mean, they basically have everything they wanted. They want more. They want the break. They want the divorce. They want the confrontation. This is exactly what they're doing. This has been all set up since 2015. I mean, the Guardia Civil has seized recently documents from a gentleman called Josep Massa Jobe Liado. Nobody knows him. He is the #1 of the cabinet of Oriol Junqueras, the #2 of the Catalan government. And he said, this is all set up. We know that we cannot have independence tomorrow. So we'll go step by step. This is probably what Carles Puigdemont is going to say within 1 hour. But we will be on the way to get it sooner or later.
I will just make one thing. I think that in many ways, Mariano Rajoy has been his own worst enemy in a sense with this relationship with Catalonia, in the sense that his popular party is the one that sort of filed this case to the Constitutional Court, which ended up sort of ruling in favor of peeling back a lot of the statutes of autonomy back in 2010. That Constitutional Court decision did not just sort of materialize out of thin air. It was a direct result of something that was brought, if you will say, a complaint, a grievance, whatever you want to call it, by Rajoy and his popular party, you know, back when he was still sort of, you know, rising power politician. Basically, he thought there was too much autonomy at the time from that 2005 vote for the new statutes of autonomy. So I think, and we were talking about this before, that 2010 stripping back of autonomy has really been one of the big catalysts, the big irritants. You could, you know, you were saying we could go back, yes, to the 9th century. We could go back to 1931, where I think Catalonia had a republic for actually 3 days before it crumbled. We could go back to the Civil War, the Spanish Civil War, and still the comparisons between Rajoy's oppression and Franco and his fascist regime. We could go back to all of that. But in the here and now, in the relative modern times, modern day, it's that 2010 Constitutional Court ruling, and that ruling was brought as a result of Mariano Rajoy and his popular party.
Sarah Morris, the Rajoy style of governing, it's kept him in power a long time in Madrid.
It certainly has. He's a wait-and-see type character. And there are criticisms of the People's Party for being insensitive, for making remarks that were hurtful to Catalans, like, for instance, and the remark by an education minister that it was time to make children in Catalonia more Spanish, and that appeal of the statute of Catalonia to the Constitutional Court was seen as a turning point, in particular in that there was a description of Catalonia as a nation, and some people say, well, perhaps we should go back to that statute, but there are other criticisms of Jordi Pujol, who was the man who ruled in Catalonia, the predecessor of Artur Mas, same party as Carles Puigdemont, who ruled for many years and was seen as untouchable. But now some people say, did he always just want to accumulate power and and then drive towards an independent country? Was he actually playing Madrid in bad faith? Because, of course, the regional parties were often they often were the kingmakers in the Spanish parliament, and so both the socialists and the conservative parties used to rely on the Catalan nationalists a lot to pass laws.
So we have this climate of suspicion, as we've heard throughout this hour here on France 24, this climate of mistrust. And we have, of course, the finger pointed by all sides when it comes to, well, corruption allegations. Sarah Morris.
Yes, that's right. Because, of course, Jordi Pujol had to admit that he was keeping millions abroad, and many of his family members are being investigated, including members of his party, for the allegations that he took top-ups in the same way that Mariano Rajoy's People's Party is under investigation for taking bribes on public contracts. The party of Carlos Puigdemont, the same sort of allegations, and in particular, there's a very specific allegation, which is that for every single contract that was signed up in Catalonia, there was a 3% kickback. And some people say that the decision of Artur Mas, the predecessor of Carlos Puigdemont, to suddenly decide that he was in favour of a referendum and independence. So some of the critics say that was a smokescreen for the corruption allegations. Lots of voters have deserted Carlos Puigdemont's party. That was also a party which was in a previous coalition, which broke up, changed its name, and it's now called PDCAT. Many voters have stopped voting for that and switched to other parties. So it's quite convenient, say some, that he's now in a Together for Yes coalition.
Claire Pacarin, in the streets of Barcelona, people that we spoke to felt like, well, with the corruption allegations described by Sarah on all sides, with the fact that you have these motley crew minority governments we were talking about, that well, there are no grown-ups in the room, basically.
Many Catalans are very frustrated with their politicians. That one thing is for sure. On the one hand, we have Carlos Puigdemont, who says that he's ready to dialogue, ready to have some mediation with Madrid. At the same time, Madrid's saying that that is not a genuine offer because they will not dialogue with the Catalonian political leaders until they drop their threat of declaring independence. And Madrid has also said there is no way that it would ever discuss Catalonia holding an independence referendum. And that's something that's very important, that a lot of Catalans are pretty frustrated with Mariano Rajoy's People's Party, and that's because back in 2006 his party successfully campaigned to stop Catalonia getting extra autonomous powers, things it wanted, things it had agreed on. That party, the People's Party that belongs to the current Spanish Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy, successfully blocked those autonomous powers coming through. So many Catalans feel pretty frustrated with Madrid, whether or not they're for or against independence. Some anti-independence Catalans that I've been speaking to said they are fed up with Madrid and they aren't happy with the way Madrid has not come to the table and not tried to talk enough to the Catalonian political leaders. Madrid, though, of course, would say that they cannot negotiate with anyone who is threatening to declare independence.
Jean-Marc SANCHEZ, on the back of that, some are saying, why not have snap elections in Spain and snap elections in Catalonia?
Well,
clear the decks.
That's one of the options that has been contemplated. Something will happen for sure. There will be a change, one way or another. And I think, and I agree with what was said before, there is some kind of a personification of the struggle between Madrid and Barcelona. It's more likely to be between Mariano Rajoy and Carles Puigdemont. There is something very interesting also that was mentioned before on the economical standpoint. The leader of the Spanish Catalan Cooperation Association, Josep Bou, which is quite famous in Barcelona, not as much outside, say that 2,500 companies were already ready to leave or have left Catalonia, and if not, they will do it in the next few days or weeks if the actual government of Catalonia declares independence.